And 13 clause 2 says it is a warning to the state. Can you see? It is a warning to the state that do not make such laws which is taking away the fundamental rights. And if you do so, then the law will be declared as null and void. As simple as that. Got it? Now, look here. Let's move to article number 13. Drop your pen and look here very carefully. Now, before we move into the territory of article 13, I'm presenting a case in front of you and you people have to adjudicate the matter now. Look here. Suppose the parliament has made a law and this law, it violates the fundamental rights. What do you think? Will this law be valid? No. Why? Because this law will be challenged. Where? It would be challenged before the judiciary. And the judiciary will do what? The judiciary is the guardian of the constitution. So what the judiciary will do? The judiciary will then look that whether the law is consistent or inconsistent with the provisions of the constitution. And the moment the judiciary identifies or discovers that it is violating the fundamental rights, what will judiciary do? Judiciary will strike down this law and will declare it as null and void. Do you understand that? Is this thing very easy to understand? Now, let me give one more example. Look here. Think of this. Suppose there existed a law before the commencement of the constitution. It means the constitution has still not come into force. But this law is a pre-constitutional law. Can I call it something like this? A pre-constitutional law. Now the constitution has come into force. This law is violating the fundamental rights. Then what will be the fate of this law? There are so many pre-constitutional laws that we have. There are so many laws which are made by the British, which are still continuing. So think of those pre-constitutional laws. If those pre-constitutional laws, they violate the fundamental rights, then what will be the fate of such laws? You can understand this, that the parliament cannot make a law which takes away or abridges any of the rights which are contained in part 3, because if such a law is made, then such a law will be declared as null and void by the judiciary. My question is different. I'm asking, what about those laws which existed prior to the commencement of the constitution? मतलब constitution अभी तक आया नहीं. These laws are laws which existed prior to that. If they are violating fundamental rights, what do you think? What will be fate of those laws? Can such laws also be challenged into the court of law? Laws which are predating the constitution, can they also be challenged into the court of laws? Yes, why not? What is the bar? Because judicial review is a part of the basic structure. So if they are challenged in the Supreme Court, say for example, then the Supreme Court will again test those laws in the light of the Constitution. And if the Supreme Court discovers upon such testing that such laws, the pre-constitutional laws, they are violating the fundamental rights, then what do you think? What will be the judiciary doing then? Will it declare such laws also as null and void? Yes, why not? Logic says they should do it, and they do it definitely. Do you get that? Now, the point is this. Look here. Suppose there is a law, and suppose Parliament has made this law. And in this law, suppose Parliament has incorporated 4 provisions. There are 4 parts or 4 provisions of this law, or 4 clauses or 4 articles in this law. A, B, C and D. A, B and C, they are not violating fundamental rights, but D is violating fundamental rights. Then suppose if this law is challenged before the judiciary. Listen to the question one more time. I'm saying that the Parliament has made a law, and this law has how many provisions? 4 provisions, A, B, C and D, out of which A, B and C are not violative of the fundamental rights, but D is violating the fundamental rights. Then if this law is challenged before the Supreme Court or before the judiciary, what do you think? Will the judiciary strike down the entire law or only section D? Logic says what? Only section D. Got it? So the point is here what? Look here. Article 13 says that the state shall not make any law which takes away or destroys or abridges the rights contained in this part. This part means which part? Part 3. It means fundamental rights. And if a law is made in violation of this clause, it means what is written in Article 13, then such a law to the extent of violation will be null and void. In simple words, it means that If a law is made and some portions of that law is inconsistent with the fundamental rights, then those portions will only be invalidated. If the entire law is inconsistent, the entire law will be invalidated. So to the extent of violation, jitna violate karoge, utna hat jayega. Got it? That is what is said in Article 13 Clause 2. Article 13 Clause 1 says the same thing, but not for future laws, but for pre-constitutional laws. Now, let us come to the second clause, which is Article 13 Clause 2. Now, what does this has to say? It says that the Parliament should not make any new law which takes away or abridges any of the rights conferred by this part. And if a law is made in contravention, contravention means violation, violation of this clause. Which clause? Article 13, Clause 2. Then such a law, to the extent of contravention, will be null and void. Got it? So Article 13, Clause 1 talks about old laws, whereas 13, Clause 2 talks about the future laws. It says that कि अगर ऐसा कोई law है जो fundamental rights को abridge करता है, then that law will be declared as null and void to the degree of violation. And 13 Clause 2 says it is a warning to the state. Can you see? It is a warning to the state that do not make such laws which is taking away the fundamental rights. And if you do so, then the law will be declared as null and void. As simple as that. Got it? So this is all about what? This is all about law. Pre-constitutional and post-constitutional laws. Now, look here. Think of this. Suppose, have you heard about this ONGC? Have you heard about this? Is this a part of the expression state? Is this a part of the expression state? Yes, it's a, what kind of company is this? It's a Navratna. Have you heard about this? Maharatna, Navratna, right? So it's one of the companies which is a leader in its own sector. And what is that sector? Oil and natural gas. Got it? Now suppose ONGC is issuing a notice, and this is what the notice is. The notice says that we want some people to work in our office to take care of the books. It means to take care of the accounts. So they are hiring people for taking care of the accounts of the ONGC. It means auditors and chartered accountants. Do you understand that? But in that, if the ONGC says that people of a particular caste or a particular gender will only be allowed, then what do you think? Will this notification released by ONGC be valid, or will it be declared null and void? Look here, it is all talking about law. Is it not all talking about law? But this is what? This is notification. Do you mean to say that notification is equals to law? Are you trying to say that? What is the difference between notification and law? What is the difference? Notification also has that. If you have to give the UPSC examination, you have to fill the form as per the notification. So that's a binding thing on you. So the point is, my question is, what is the difference between law and notification? Notification is not always a warning, it could be an invitation also for an examination.
The rules and regulations that is given prior to
Laws are also like that. Once they are passed, then they are, how laws come into the picture, by the way, are you aware? Now, if we take into India's context, you know that for making a law, you have to approach the parliament and you have to introduce what? A bill, right? The bill could be introduced in Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, provided that it is not a money bill. Got it? Constitutional amendment bill, can it be introduced in any of the houses? Yes, it can be introduced in any of the houses. Now suppose it is passed by the Lok Sabha, suppose it was introduced here, it's passed by the Lok Sabha, it's transmitted to the Rajya Sabha, and suppose it is passed by the Rajya Sabha also, then it goes to whom? It goes to the president. So it is a bill, got it? Once it is passed by both the houses, then it becomes what? It is still a bill. It is still a bill. It is not an act. It is still a bill. Once it gets the signature of the president, then it becomes what? Then it becomes an act. Got it? And this entire process is known as the process of enactment, right? And laws are therefore also known as enactment. It is still not a law. It is only an act. It exists only on paper. It does not exist in the society yet. After that, what happens, you see? After that, there is a notification which is released in the official gazette. You understand the gazette? The official paper of the government of India. So in that official gazette, it is announced, and when it is announced, from that day onwards, you will see one thing which is written as WEF. It means with effect from. ये government documents में आपको मिलेगा, central government के documents है, WEF, it means with effect from, and then a date would be given. It means from that date onwards, it becomes what? A law. Do you understand that? That is what a law is. Then what is a notification? What is a notification and how they are different from laws? See, the answer is very simple. Notifications can be released by the executive also. Rules, regulations can be made by the executive also. Now, all laws, they cannot take care of every finite detail, can they? A law, can it take care of every finite detail? No, it cannot. So what happens is that in every law you will see the last line would be that rules and regulations can be made in accordance with the provisions of this law. Do you get it? And who has this authority to make rules and regulations? The executive, the administrators. Do you get it? And that is nothing but the discretionary power of the civil servants. And that's why they have to use that very carefully. Now, do you understand what is a notification and what is a law? A law always has to follow a definite procedure and has to pass through the ordeal of enactment. Got it? And it has to make journey in both the houses. Go to the president, get his signification or signature. Only then it turns into an act. And once it is notified, it becomes a law. But notifications can be issued by any body. Like say for example, the ONGC can issue a notification. What about the UPSC? It releases notification every year. So suppose UPSC releases a notification next year wherein it says that female candidates will not be allowed to take the examination. Do not get disheartened. UPSC will never do that. And even if UPSC does that, then what will happen? The Supreme Court will declare it as null and void. Now that takes us to our next article, which is Article 13, Clause 3. It clearly highlights that the law, expression law, includes ordinances, rules, bylaws, notifications, everything. Do you get it? Which has the force of law in the country. Got it? So the point here is that it is not only restricted to the laws which are made in the parliament, but it is restricted, or rather it is applicable in all cases wherever the authority which is issuing falls under the ambit of the definition of state. Remember that? So it will be applicable there too. So can SEBI issue a regulation which is violating of the fundamental rights? No. Can RBI do it? No. What about ONGC? No. What about State Bank of India? No. If State Bank of India says that only people belonging to a particular region only will, or race only, will have the opportunity to open bank accounts in State Bank of India, then the government will definitely not allow that. And if suppose it passes the eye of the government, comes into the public, anybody can move the Supreme Court of India and say that this notification is grossly violating the fundamental rights, and therefore the Supreme Court will take cognizance of it, will declare it null and void. Got it? So law का मतलब क्या है? Notification, rule, ये सब कुछ आता है. Got that?